A warm welcome to all the viewers. I am Prasamcha Shakya, a qualified education agent here at Aussizz Group Adelaide. Today, in this live session, we will be providing information and discussion about various things about Torrens University, the courses they offered, their entry requirement, career outcomes, intakes, and scholarship offered. If you're interested to know more about courses offered by the Torrens University, this is the best opportunity to gather information. So stay tuned with us, and we're open to any question relevant to this session. So please put in your inquiries in the comment mentioned below, and we'll try our best to provide you the answers at the end of this session. So talking about Torrens University, it is renowned as the fastest growing university in Australia. It is very popular among international students and has been offering high quality of undergraduate, graduate, higher degree by research, specialized degree program in wide ranges of academic disciplines like design, business, IT, community service, health, accounting, and many more, and delivering their program and online and on campus. So today, to provide in-depth information about this Torrens University, we have Mr. Lyndon Torres, Business Development Manager, Subcontinent and Middle East from Torrens University. Welcome to this session, Lyndon.
Thanks a lot for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk with, meet with, and to work with the Aussizz team. So always a pleasure to work with you and run a session like this.
It's our pleasure as well. So to start with the session, would you like to provide a few information about yourself, and as a general question of international student, why students should choose study with Torrens University?
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, look, the session is mostly about Torrens University, and it's all about the courses and study options, career outcomes, and everything like that. So, that's what everyone wants to hear about. But just to give you some context around who I am and why you would want to listen to me, I'm going to make it very short. So, because people want to learn about Torrens, not me. But anyway, so as you said, my name is Lyndon Tolhurst. I'm Business Development Manager for the Subcontinent and Middle East. So what my role is currently is that I work with agents, such as Aussizz, and work with you to be able to bring students either into the country or to Torrens University and make sure that you enroll and have a successful education. But I can talk to you not only as an employee of Torrens University working with students coming in. I've been an employee of Torrens University and Think Education, which is a part of Torrens University, for over 9 years. And throughout that time, I've worked as working with current students to make sure that they can get out and get a good experience with the industry. I've worked with graduates, with the alumni space as well. So I've seen what journey students go on after their graduation. And I also work with students before they go in. So I've seen all aspects of that. And not only that, I'm a twice graduate of Torrens University myself. So I did my undergraduate Bachelor of Health Science, and I did my master's degree through Torrens, my MBA through Torrens University as well. So I would like to think I'm not only an authority because I'm a representative, but I'm also an example of a student and a past and a graduate as well. So I hope it comes off as genuine, and this is, I can tell you from my firsthand experience what it means to study at Torrens University. So that's about me, and I don't want to harp on about myself because this is about Torrens University. So we'll go from here. So should I start the presentation then?
Yes, sure.
Sure. Excellent. Okay. Okay, I hope you can see the screen, and I'll go from here. So we're Torrens University. So, 5 years ago, people might not have heard of who we are. And, that's because we didn't exist. So we came into existence about 2015, and in 2016, we had our first international students. So there we go. So we had our first international students. So before we had, international students, we had domestic students through various different colleges. But in 2016, we started with one international student. So that one student put his trust into us to provide him an education that's going to give him a meaningful career and a meaningful future. Now, since that, we've grown into Australia's fastest growing university, which I believe you mentioned before. So we went from one student to over 11,000 international students as well, which I'll go into a little more detail about who they are, where they come from in a little bit, but just a little bit of background about Torrens University. We have over 300 courses. We have a global network of students who are graduates as well as current students who are studying all the way around the world. We put a huge emphasis on ensuring that our courses are up to date and our students are engaged with their community and with the industry to make sure that the qualifications they receive are relevant. And upon graduation, they actually have that immersive experience, which means that they actually have had that experience of working in the future career that they want to enter into upon graduation. We also have a range of support networks available to ensure that our students succeed. We have dedicated mentors that are entirely there to make sure that our students pick the right subjects, that submit the right documents to ensure that they have a successful time with Torrens University and go on into a successful career. Now, I said we're Australia's fastest growing university, and this is where we are. So, like I said, we have over 11,000 international students. Now, I think what the really important thing about Torrens University, and something that really sets us apart in the tertiary education sector, we have students that come from 118 different countries. Now, that's in and of itself not necessarily unique. I'm sure there are other providers that have that. However, we've got a really strong international mix of students. So what you can see in some places is that where one particular nationality prefer one location, one university, and what you can find is that you have an imbalance in that nationality mix. Something that we really pride ourselves on is that we have students from all nationalities sitting in a classroom together. So while I work with Aussizz, who have generally students would typically come from the South Asia region, for example. But however, we have students from all across the world. So there might be an Indian student sitting next to a Pakistani student, that's fine, but sitting next to a Colombian student, who's sitting next to a Vietnamese student, who's sitting next to an Australian domestic student, and so on. And so what that really means is that you get that international student experience. Yes, obviously the qualification is the most important thing. Coming out and getting that piece of paper and that globally recognized education is primarily what you're after. However, one of the main reasons that you'd want to come and study in Australia or engage with an international university is to get that international student experience. And that's something that we really pride ourselves on. I can see you unmuted yourself there for a second. Was there something you wanted to add there?
Yes, so yeah, definitely. The main important, it's for the student, it's not just important to choose the right course, it's important to choose the right university where they can get the flexible classes, flexibility, learning environment, flexible payment plan, and lots of other things as well. So that is also important for the international student or other student as well, right?
Absolutely, 100% agree, 100% agree. And when it comes to flexibility, do I have some more information for you? So
yeah,
I'll get to that very shortly, but we have lots of flexible options in a lot of different ways. Mm-hmm. Now, just going along with Australia's fastest growing university, I think it would be easy to say, look, you're Australia's fastest growing university. How can you ensure that a student experience remains the primary focus of the university? So you've gone from 1 student to 11,000. How can a university ensure that the student experience is a positive one? Now, obviously, as a university, our customers, if you will, are students, and the student experience is absolutely central to everything that we do. So we need to make sure that students have meet academic levels, and they need to, of course, meet outcomes required of their courses, but we want to make sure that that's as accessible and as easy for them to do in the context of higher education. Now, I think that although I can't go into a huge amount of detail about all of that because that would be well beyond the scope of this conversation, but I think if you look at the statistic in the left-hand corner there, 90% retention for international students. What that means is out of every 10 students that starts their course with us, 9 of them finish, which is absolutely outstanding. I don't think that maybe I don't have that data with me, but I think that would be the best in Australia, and I think that it would be by a fair margin. Now, if you consider all of the different things and all the different challenges that an international student could come up against over the course of their 2 or 3 year qualification, So many things that can happen, especially as we've seen in the past 18 months with COVID, changed absolutely everything. There have been so many challenges that have been put in front of our international students. So 90% of our students who start finish, and that speaks to the quality, it speaks to the support services we have, and the absolute student experience. And not only that, if you look at hospitality there, which is one of our faculties, which I'll explain soon, 95% of our students that complete our hospitality courses find a job that they want within 6 months of graduating. So that doesn't mean, you do a master's degree in hospitality and you get a job flipping burgers at the local cafe, unless of course that's what you want to do. But I would say I would suspect that the most graduates wouldn't necessarily want to do that. What that employment rate refers to is going into a career that is either related to the field that they studied in, or is otherwise the job that they wanted to go into, even if it is slightly not related. The other thing I'm going to point to here as well, 3,600 industry contacts. What that means is every single one of our undergraduate programs has a placement component. It means that students get that industry experience and then that immersive experience as they study. But it also means that, they have those contacts. They have professional networks before they even graduate, which is a huge benefit. And of course, a lot of our academic staff are also come from industry as well. They have the appropriate qualifications. They have what is required of academics, and they have PhDs, and they have research papers. They have all those things, but they also come from industry. So it's relevant what they're teaching. And I think also the numbers actually slightly higher than that, the 19,000. What you'll see is that our split between domestic and international students is almost 50-50 as well. So there's a very strong cohort of domestic students as well. All right. Don't worry, I will go through these slides a little quicker, but I'm just wanting to emphasize a few things for everyone watching this at home. Did you want to add something just quickly?
So yeah, that's fine. You can continue with the
Yeah, sure, no worries. Okay, so the one thing I want to add here is there's a lot of different things there, and anyone that's interested, by all means, speak with the Aussizz team. They can give you some more information on what all of this means. But I'm just going to highlight one award here. That's the one in the middle at the top, which is the 20th Global MBA. Now, I'm going to point this out for a reason. So when the COVID pandemic started, obviously in response to government public health advice, we had to move our students and our staff to keep them safe into remote locations. So that meant that everybody was working and studying pretty much from home. Especially I'm here in Melbourne, so I can tell you firsthand, that was a lot of studying and working at home, and for our friends and colleagues in Sydney, I hope that they're all doing well at the moment too. But the reason I bring this up is because what happened with that is that because everyone had to study and work at home, it meant that our content and our courses had to be delivered in a format that was accessible to students who were sitting at home. Now, what happened at the time that this pandemic hit, unrelated to that, we also got a government ranking by CEO magazine, which is a well-regarded magazine, that our MBA was in the top 20 in the world as an online degree. So what that showed is that the quality of our courses that were already being delivered online anyway as an option, actually maintained that quality and continues to maintain that quality. So for example, in Sydney at the moment, our staff and students are in lockdown at the moment, and our thoughts are with them, and we hope that they're doing okay. But what it means is that they're not losing any quality from the delivery of their courses, and they're also able to access a globally recognized level of education from their home. So we're very proud of the fact that we were able to make sure our staff and students were safe, but also deliver world-class education. And that's why I wanted to point this one statistic out, because it's or one ranking out, because it's important in the context of lockdowns. I won't go into that because you all know that, because generally most of you are going to be in Australia anyway. Now, flexibility was something that you mentioned before, and something that I want to build upon. Something that we really offer, especially around campus locations and course changes, is an enormous amount of flexibility. So we have campuses in Melbourne, where I am, Adelaide, where your wonderful Aussizz crew currently are, but also in Sydney and Brisbane, which also have Aussizz branches for the record. So we have campuses in all these locations. And what that means is it gives you flexibility in two main points. The first thing is it gives you flexibility for the campus that you want to study at initially. So there are various reasons why you might want to study at different locations. It could be, you want to go to Adelaide because there are regional benefits for your post-study work experience. It could be you want to come to Melbourne because we have great lifestyle and culture and coffee, if that's the sort of thing you like. Might be you want to live in Brisbane, and because that's that quintessential Australian beaches and sunshine and tropical north. So there are different reasons why you might want to study in other locations. And the good thing is the vast majority of our courses, especially the most popular courses, are available at either multiple at all locations. So you're able to, you want to do an MBA with Torrens, but you're in Sydney, but you really want to avail the regional benefits of studying in Adelaide, you can do our MBA in Adelaide. It's the same course, nothing's different except the location. Is there something you're going to add?
So yeah, that's what. So student, if they want to like transfer their course, that will be just the internal transfer, and we can assist them to do that. Yep.
Exactly. That's exactly the second point of flexibility that I was going to mention, is that you're a current student, you're doing your MBA with us in Melbourne, you have some friends or a reason that you want to move to Brisbane, then it's just a matter of an internal transfer, and Aussizz team are there to help you to do that as well. If you like, they can support you to do that. And there's no interruptions to your studies. You don't need to go through an application for credits. It's the same system, it's the same course. It's just up to you to fill out the form and then get yourself to the other location, and we'll take care of the rest. So that's the second reason why we give you a lot of flexibility. So we said flexibility, and that's what we're giving you. That's where our campuses are. Now, what I'm going to do is, so I've spent a bit of time giving you a bit of background around Torrens, who we are. I'm going to run through a few of the courses. I'm going to go through it in sort of a little less detail because there's a lot of courses, and this presentation will go on for 3 hours if I do it all. What I recommend is that if you've got any questions about this, by all means, put it in the chat and the team can read it out to me, or they can answer it themselves. But if you don't manage to, or if you think of something later, or you just want to know more, please get yourself to your local Aussizz branch. They will give you more information on all of these courses. They work closely with us. I talk to team members from Aussizz several times a day. So trust me, we'll be able to get the information to you if they don't know off their head.
Yes, of course. So we are here to help you. So if you've got any question, you can just write it down in the comment below, and then we will try to respond to you as soon as possible.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to run through this, relatively quickly. I'll give you a bit of background around the types of courses we have and the sort of careers that you would go into from doing those courses. And then at the end, I believe we'll go into some questions. So I'll run through it by faculty. And so one of our biggest faculties, we call them verticals here at Torrens University, is hospitality. And now, so they work in a few different areas. So hospitality itself is kind of a broad-ranging industry, if you will. And so within Torrens University, we have two schools of hospitality. One is our Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School, which actually yesterday just received an award for the top hotel management school in China. So extremely well-regarded course, and very, very well established. It's been around for about 30 years, and there are alumni all around the world. So the Blue Mountains International Hotel Management School is really focused on hotel management, obviously. So there are courses at undergraduate and which are more like bachelors of business in hotel and resort management and that sort of thing, and postgraduate courses in international hotel management. Now, the other side of it is through our William Blue College, which is based in Sydney as well, which is more around tourism and tourism management, which come from a Bachelor of Business as well. So that's sort of the difference that you would have to look at. So here we go. These are sort of the suite of courses. So they're Bachelor of Business courses with specializations. So it's a Bachelor of Business course, and then hospitality management or tourism management, that sort of thing. Whereas the Blue Mountains courses, hotel management, resort management. And then if you go into culinary management, which is different again, it's more of a practical course. So it's a bachelor level degree, but it's actually cookery, and it's a bachelor level course, and you work we have our own restaurant in Sydney called William Blue Dining. It's in the Rocks. And according to TripAdvisor, it was one of the best restaurants in the Rocks. For anyone based in Sydney, it's a very sort of trendy area for people to go and eat and drink and socialize. And our own restaurant was one of the top ones there. So that's where, as a student of Bachelor of Culinary Management, you'd go and, as part of your placement, you actually work and serve the public. So it's a real sort of experience. So like I said, really high graduate outcomes, going into the fields that they want, and quick. You get employment quickly. It's a very fast moving career within hospitality. There's lots of opportunities. And I think, well, sort of the last thing I would say about hospitality here is that, the question might be, so why would you go into hospitality or tourism when you consider there's a travel ban, when you can't get out of Australia, tourists can't come here? Why would you do it? So there's two reasons why I would say it's worthwhile. The first thing is, if you're studying now, this COVID situation isn't going to be around forever. And by the time you graduate, there are going to be a whole lot more opportunities that exist than do now. It's going to be, people are always going to want to travel. The only thing stopping them are the restrictions that we have now. So if you're studying a 2 or 3 year degree now, by the time you complete that and go out into the world, we're not going to be in this situation. So it's kind of building for the future. The second thing is, the tourism and hospitality sectors have a wonderful ability to adapt to the situation they're in. So I'm here in Victoria, and we weren't allowed to travel to any of the other states for a while. A lot of the other states, South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, put border closures. So we as Victorians weren't able to travel anywhere. And as a result of that, regional Victoria absolutely blew up as a tourist destination. And there was a lot of tourism that came up just in our local areas in response to the fact that people couldn't travel interstate. And so the tourism sector just adapted. And so there's always going to be space for professionals in those roles. That's why I'd say it might sound like a funny place to go into now, but it actually does make a lot of sense. And these are some different career outcomes, which I won't read out because that will be a little too long. Very, very well industry connected. And the good thing with these are that not only these are the kinds of places that you would do your placement at as a industry placement, this is where a lot of our graduates actually work. And so you actually have alumni networks and colleagues and professional friends, if you want, that work at a lot of these places. So that's how well the alumni spread is. Here's some placements, for example, of kinds of places that you could do placements. Now, program requirements. You know what? I'm going to go through all of the program requirements at the end as just one thing. I think it's probably the best way to do it, rather than doing them each time. Now, business. So, sorry. Okay. So, oops. Business is the area that the majority of the students that I tend to work with, most of them go into business. Now, business is an interesting one, because you've got to consider that although business has specializations, at its core, studying a business degree is primarily a generalist type of degree. So, and I think that's the point of having these statistics. So a business degree will, at its core, will always have a marketing subject. It'll always have a finance subject. It'll always have, an HR subject. It will always have subjects that represent the different functions that you would have within an organization. And so the point of that is not to make you a finance expert or a marketing expert or something like that. The point is that you understand how the functions of a business run. The reason that that's important, and why I bring this up, is if you look at this snapshot, you say, okay, well, what has weddings got to do with business? Well, every wedding company needs people that can project manage the wedding itself. They need people that can do the marketing for it. They need somebody to do their books and to do their accounting. They need people that can understand those functions in order to run a company. So I don't know anything about weddings, apart from what you see in movies and that sort of thing. But you could, with a business degree, step into a wedding planning business without that background and effectively run one. And that's the point of a business degree, is that it gives you that overall oversight over how a company runs, so that you don't need to know finance, but you understand how the person that does finance in the company operates. So that's what a business degree is. Now, having said that, we do have specializations with weddings in particular. We have in our bachelor degrees, we have an event management specialization. We have a few other different specializations. So you'll always be able to do those, and you'll be able to do specializations in those particular areas, but the fundamental core of the degree will always be the same regardless of the specialization. You'll always need to understand how those functions work, because that's what a business degree, it's supposed to be a general understanding of business itself. So again, very, very high career outcomes. And so this is data. So, just so you know that this is legitimate data. This is not something that Torrens University just plucks out of thin air. So we have a very strong alumni network, and we take surveys periodically of where our students are, how they're going, are they in a job that they want, have their salary increased, all those sorts of things. And so this is data. This is from the voices of our graduates. This isn't Torrens University sort of making a bit of a guess. This is what they say, and this is what they this is what they feed back to us, which is great. Now, so these are business courses. So these are specializations. So you've got the pure Bachelor of Business, but then you can also do a specialization in event management or in marketing or in entrepreneurship, for example. Bachelor of Commerce, same, more of a finance focus, where it's got the CPA accreditation as well, and Bachelor of Business Information Systems. Then at the master's level, Business Administration, Business Information Systems, which is business analytics, extremely popular. That's ACS accredited for those who are wanting to go on to do a professional year, so it meets the skills assessment. Global Project Management and Master of Professional Accounting. For the record, all of our master's degrees have a 2-year option to do, so you will get the post-study work rights upon graduation. And there are dual masters as well that bear a bit more explaining, but definitely talk to your Aussizz branch. They can explain what they are, because it's a little bit more complicated. And we've got the Master of Engineering Management as well. Some price structures. You know what? Talk to Aussizz. They'll tell you. Again, like I said, a lot of our courses, all of our undergraduate courses have a placement component, and a number of our postgraduate courses have a placement elective that you can take. And some career outcomes as well, related to the specific area, but also generalist types of outcomes too. Okay, I know that this, I'm going to move on, but I just want to highlight this. So this looks like a bunch of buzzwords. I get it. This is the sort of things that you would see on some kind of what makes a successful leader type of propaganda that you might see on things. But this is actually meaningful for Torrens University. This is something that we consider. So every time we design a course, come up with a new course, or revise a course, we have certain things that we look for that must be embedded within the course, that we think is important for our students to be able to handle. And so this is the sorts of things that we look at when we design a new course. We want students to come out with these skills upon graduation. And again, some other organizations that we have graduates at, but also where students can do placement. I'll do the program requirements at the end. Now, design and creative technology, I'm just being a little bit mindful of time, so I won't go into too much detail, but the areas that I think are of most interest for the students that we're probably talking to today would be around the software engineering. So we have bachelor level of software engineering, which is programming and artificial intelligence. And we also have the Master of Software Engineering in Cloud Computing and Artificial Intelligence. So this is sort of when students coming to us to wanting to do an IT course, for example, we don't have a pure IT course. Students will go into either the MBIS, which is the business analytics, which has components of programming with business subjects, or they'll go into the software engineering, which is more sort of related to artificial intelligence and cloud computing, so that software or hardware type of breakdown. It's a lot more technical. Although you don't need to come from that background to be able to go into the courses, they're a lot more technical. So they're more for people who do come from that sort of background. Whereas MBIS, you can come from a business or any other sort of background to go into and succeed. And of course, what can we say about the tech industry? absolutely booming, and some of the most successful companies in the world are tech companies. Think of Google, Amazon, some of the most valuable and sought after companies in the world, based on tech, and some career outcomes from this area as well. Sorry, I know I'm skipping through this quite quickly now, but I'm just mindful of time. So I'll go through for pricing. I'll let you talk to education. So we have one course in education typically that international students would do, and that's the Master of Education in Special Education Advanced. So the other ones, the graduate certificate, in innovation and change, they're online courses, so they don't come with a COE, so an international student wouldn't typically be able to do them unless they're offshore or don't have a study requirement as part of their visa, whereas the Master of Education Special Education Advanced does. So what this course is that it's an upgrade for students who come from a background, who are either a teacher already or come from community services or something like that and want to upgrade. The course is really about how do you work with people that think or learn in different ways. Okay, for example, there's an emphasis within that on autism, which is one, and that people who have autism, they relate to social situations in different ways, and they might understand things in different ways. And so how do you communicate a message to somebody that understands something in a different way from everyone else? And so it's about how you can articulate what you need to articulate to that person. That's one example of what you can sort of, of how that works. So just for the record, and so people know, this isn't a teaching degree. Students can't do this and register as a teacher, although if you're a teacher already, you might consider going into this course. And now health. So the last area, and then we'll go on to any questions. But look, health courses, we have a lot of courses at the undergraduate level, especially around health science, with different specializations. Now, although I was saying at the start that the majority of our courses are available at all or most locations, there are some restrictions around the health science courses. The reason for that is that they have public-facing clinics. That takes a lot of infrastructure to be able to have them run effectively. So what that means is, for example, aesthetics, which is about skincare and everything like that. It takes a huge amount of infrastructure. So that's one's only available in Brisbane. Clinical myotherapy and Chinese medicine, very specialized courses. They take specialist knowledge from academics, but they also take enormous clinics with, for example, Chinese medicine, the dispensary for the herbal dispensary is a huge room. And so you need to have a kind of specialist setup. So there are some restrictions over those, whereas the rest of them, nutrition and naturopathy are available everywhere. So just wanting to point that out, because I did say that all courses or most courses are available, and these are just some examples of ones. So those are clinical courses that are really designed to teach you to become a clinical practitioner, although it's not limited to that. Now, I would say the most popular health course with international students at Torrens University are the Master of Public Health. I think we can all appreciate the importance of public health, especially in the last 18 months. Now, what public health is really not about that clinical position. It's not about diagnosing students or patients rather with health conditions. That's for a clinical practitioner, for a doctor or physio or whoever. Public health is understanding the way that population health works and how different diseases work within a community and how different interventions can have an effect on a community. So I'm going to give you a very basic example. I'm only speaking for myself, but I'm going to assume nobody had heard of social distancing before about March last year. I hadn't, but I think everybody now knows exactly what social distancing is. So that's an example of a public health initiative to say, well, we know that based on airborne transmission of this virus, if you stand 1.5 meters apart, if everyone stays 1.5 meters apart, then we know that the transmission is reduced drastically. So that's an example of a public health initiative to say, well, if the population spreads itself out when it's out in public, this is less transmissible, and the overall transmission is reduced, and so the population health is therefore increased. Very basic example, but that's sort of what public health looks at. It's not about being a doctor, it's about understanding population health. And Master of Counselling as well, which is a sort of a clinical course focused on counselling. And there's some career outcomes there as well that you could look at, especially in public health. You can see there's quite a broad range of areas that you could go into. Now, the big one here is on nursing as well. So I'm going to go to nursing. You can see the health industry is huge, and especially if you consider Australia's population is aging quite drastically. So there's a huge demand on healthcare in Australia. Always going to be there. Unfortunately, the reality of life is it means that people are going to get sick and people are going to need support, and that's what we have there. Okay. Now, I'll go, like I said, I'll go through those at the end. Now, something that's of big interest is we have a diploma and a Bachelor of Nursing as well. So we have the Diploma of Nursing, which is a 18-month course, and a Bachelor of Nursing, which is a 3-year course. Now, these are both accredited with AHPRA. So upon graduation, you can register with the appropriate level. So a Diploma of Nursing, you can graduate and register with AHPRA as an enrolled nurse. It's called a Division 2 nurse. And upon completion of the Bachelor, you can do, which is a 3-year course, you can register as a registered nurse, which is a Division 1 nurse. There are obviously different levels to the qualification. So the earning potential and benefits of doing one or the other vary because there's a higher level of education. Now, the tricky part with that is that these are extremely popular courses, especially in Adelaide. And so they fill up very, very quickly. So over the space of us having this conversation right now, if there was a free spot in Adelaide for the next intake, it's probably gone by now. So it's very, very, very popular. So what I would say is if you're interested in studying nursing with Torrens University, it's available. The Bachelor and the Diploma are available at all campuses. Please get in touch with the Aussizz team as soon as possible, and they will let you know the latest capacity updates that we have, because they do fill up very, very quickly. And so please, if you want to study nursing, don't hesitate. Please get in touch, and they'll give you the most up-to-date information that we can. Now, before I go into that, okay, I'm just going to go now. I said I would go over the entry requirements. So as a rule of thumb, I'm going to just go through this broadly. Now, there are differences for different courses, and it does vary. But for entry into a diploma course, it's an IELTS 5.5. For Bachelor, it's an IELTS 6. For Master, it's an IELTS 6.5. And for nursing and higher degrees by research, which is MPhil and PhD, 7. So we accept a whole range of different English tests, not just IELTS. I use that as an example, but we accept PTE, OET, TOEFL, Cambridge as well. So we accept all of those different scores, but for English, that's what we accept. Now for academic entry requirements, for Diploma and Bachelor, we accept an Australian equivalent Year 12, and for Master degrees, we accept an Australian equivalent Bachelor degree. That's generally all that's needed, although some courses have some other requirements as well. So for example, our Master of Engineering Management, you need to have a relevant undergraduate degree, but too many to list here, and I don't want to just reel off these things, because I think it'll be far better for you to sit and have a counselling session with one of the Aussizz team. They can go through what you want to do, and from there they can give you the information related to that course. So that's why I'll just I'll skim over that.
Yeah. Sorry, I want to add one more thing regarding the entry requirement. So for the English requirement, for the onshore student, they can still go for the placement test as well, right? You're offering the placement test, or there's another option, like if they've completed 1 year of study in Australia, that can be waived off? So
correct. We've got a few different pathways into our courses. So we do accept English tests for a validity of 3 years as well, although they typically say 2, we do accept for 3. We have our own internal placement test that students can undertake, and you can just do that from home. You just book it in through your agent, and you sit at home and you do it online at a specified time, because it is supervised. Takes about 2 hours. Otherwise, there are some alternative pathways through that. So you are able to meet entry on the basis of onshore studies and completed studies. Alternatively, all of those things failing, we do have English as well that you can study with us for EAP, from general English all the way up until EAP2, that pathways into our master's degrees. So lots of options with English, but what I do know from working with students, international students for so many years, is that every single case is different, and we can generally have a look and make sure. The English requirements are there for a reason, and the reason is that we want to ensure that you as a student coming in are capable of undertaking studies at, say, a master's level. So what we need to do is to prove that. So an IELTS test is a tool to say that you can complete studies, at least from an English language perspective, to meet. So what we need to do, if you don't have that IELTS, we need to look at other things to be able to prove that. And every case is different, and we're always happy to sort of have a look at your overall profile and see if you can meet our language policy another way. And last thing is, I was going to say, we have a whole range of different scholarships available from 15 up to 35% for different campuses, for different courses, for different profiles, for people from different nationalities. There are too many scholarships to mention. So I'm not going to go over them now. And if there's questions about scholarships, please talk to the Aussizz team. They will make sure you get the highest scholarship that you can. They're very familiar with all the scholarships that we have and what it takes to be eligible for those. So without me reeling off the 30 different scholarships we have, that's going to be my recommendation. Go and talk to the Aussizz team. They will go over it with you and make sure you get the highest scholarship possible. And yeah, that's it. That's it from me for the presentation component.
Yes, thank you so much, Lyndon. So I think you've already overall covered various information about Torrens University and highlights about the courses you offered, along with entry requirements, career outcome, and the scholarship as well. So I've got one more question. So due to this COVID situation, there are lots of international onshore and offshore student, right? So they are looking for a support facility. And I know that Torrens University, they are providing lots of support facility to students. So what are the new thing you're providing to the student to cope up with the current circumstances, like online study modules, selection of units, flexibility, and the payment plans, or anything like that? Would you like to share about it?
Yeah, there's quite a few different things that I'll mention. The first thing that I'll mention is that for people who are having a very hard time, we do have a free counselling service available to all students. I'll just point that out first. That doesn't go on your academic record. That's not noted anywhere. But if you need some extra assistance and you need to speak to someone, then all of our campuses have free counselling services. So I just wanted to point that out. Now, what we have at Torrens University, and we have had for years, is a role for every single student to have, which is called a success coach. Now, what the success coach does is they're essentially a mentor for the student. They are there to make sure that, that our students can succeed. Now, that can succeed with their studies, it can succeed with their career, it can be helping them if they need a COE extension. It can be a whole lot of different things, but they're there to support them and make sure as a go-to for the student to go to be able to reach out to when they need help with those kinds of academic things and that sort of stuff. Now, some students use them all the time, some students don't use them at all. It's just that they're there and they're available for all of our students to use. Now, however, they serve a particular function, and it's a very useful function, and our students get a lot of benefit out of it. However, there's been two new things that we've brought in the past 12 to 18 months as well that has really, I think, helped to support our students. So in addition to our success coaches, we also have international student advisors. So we have a typical student services that everybody can walk up to on campus and they get support. But we've got so many students who are studying offshore online or remotely because of in Sydney, for example, they need access to those people as well. So we have international student advisors that are there to support students with more things that are they're specifically for international students. And they are just there to make sure that those students, if they've had a problem with, they needed to withdraw or they accidentally enrolled into a subject here and they needed to withdraw out of it, or they enrolled into a subject that they're going to get a credit for or something like that. They're there to just help them and make sure that those sorts of things are smoothly taken over. The other thing is that we've just bringing in a new part of the university that is entirely focused on customer experience in terms of just making sure that our students enjoy themselves and succeed, and which is really exciting. It really just shows our commitment to our students, which is great, and there's been a huge benefit to that. We did have some financial assistance as well that came in for current students as well. However, in terms of some of those financial things, Torrens University as a university, on top of the scholarships and everything that we give, actually a really affordable option for international students. I think that we represent a very accessible and available education for people that want a world-class education from a university, but don't want to pay enormous amounts of money. So we have had that going for us as well, but also for our current students, we've had a range of different options available to support them through as well, especially here in Victoria, where it was a very difficult year last year, and we just wanted to make sure that our students could succeed.
Yeah, that's great. So overall, we have come to the end of this session. So would you like to tell us or the highlight about the upcoming intakes or any promotional offers or any additional?
This is my favorite part. This is my favorite part. Okay, so I know that this is very soon, but we have an intake starting next Monday. Now, this is our July intake, and we would love to see, as many of you that want to come and study with us to come and start next week. So please, talk to the Aussizz team. They'll be able to get your application in. We are able to, it's a short turnaround time, so we do have some flexibility around what we can organize for your deposit payment to make sure you get enrolled as well. So please talk to the Aussizz team. They will get your documents in. They'll get you an offer within a day, less, pens, but very quickly anyway. And like I said, we do have some flexibility around what you can do with your deposit payment. And we do have, so classes start on Monday, but we do have a bit of extra time next week to finalize your enrollments too. So please reach out to the team and they'll help out. Other than that, our next intake is in September as well for those that, for whatever reason, aren't willing or able or inclined to study starting from next week. So that's my exciting part. Classes start next week. New students coming in. It's it's great fun on campus. Everyone's new and excited. If you're not able to start in July, but you're wanting to know a little bit more about Torrens University, you want to see the campuses, we have an open day on August the 7th at our campuses too, and we have a virtual open day just after that as well, where you can check in. It's a big virtual booth thing. You can talk to academics. There are different sessions running. You get a background on all the courses. So very exciting, and you can learn everything from there. You can ask all your questions in those too.
Yes, thank you for that. So anybody who are still interested to enroll for July intake, hurry up. We are here for you to help to do the admission. And yes, so we have came to the end of this session, and I would like to thank all the viewers and Linen for joining on this session. And it was such an informative session, and for the potential student to get clarification regarding choosing the right course for the better future and career pathway. So further, if any one of you are interested into enrolling for any courses in Torrens University for upcoming like July intake and September intake, please keep in touch with us in any of our Aussizz Group branches and drop in your details in the link mentioned below, and we will certainly help you to provide information and get into Torrens University with an attractive, applicable scholarship. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.